Could this be leprosy? I don't think so. Is it possible for a wall in a house to have leprosy? Yes, but this is not a sign of leprosy. Well, did you know that in this week's Torah portion is something very interesting? The Torah gives the Jewish people the good news. They are going to be going to the Holy Land. And it says, when you go to the Holy Land, and behold, there will be leprosy on the walls of your house. Now, first of all, that leprosy is not the same leprosy as we know these days as a medical term. It was an effect that would befall a person's belonging because of some spiritual lack in their life, or perhaps a misdeed of certain category. And God would bring that spot or spots on the belonging of a person, which they used to call Tzara, loosely translated into English as leprosy, as a sign that some action needs to be taken. But this is the fascinating part. So the Torah says it as part of the good news. And behold, you, the Jewish people, will be coming to the Holy Land, that's after arriving from the desert, and there will be tzara'at, leprosy, on the walls of your houses. And you will break down those walls, and you will find treasure. Imagine. So there are two different commentaries on this. One, Rashi, the great commentator, says that this was good news. It was all good. That in order to make sure that the Jewish people will find the treasures that were hidden by the Amorites, the nation that had to be driven out of the Holy Land. And they all hid their treasures before they left out of fear of the Jewish people coming. And they were hoping that the Jews would never find their gold and silver and treasures in the walls. What did God do? God brought leprosy, discoloration of sorts, on the walls of the houses, and then through a process that was established by Torah, the decree was that they have to break those walls and get rid of those stones that have become affected. And lo and behold, what would the Jewish people find in the wall? Treasures. So this seems to be a beautiful thing. Comes the Zohar, the book of Kabbalah and mysticism, and gives a variation of explanation and says the reason why this happened is because in that land, the nations that lived there were worshiping idols, they were idol worshippers, and therefore impurity had permeated their homes and everything in their house. So therefore, God wanted that impurity to be eradicated, and thereby gave this mitzvah where the Jewish people will end up removing what's not good in the house, and as an aftermath of that, they would find treasures as well. So two different explanations. One says it was all good, and one says, well, there was a bad beginning to this story, but it ended up being good. What does all of this mean to us? There's a famous story of a famous Hasidic master, Rabbi Yiftach, who loved his people to the nth degree. And one time he comes across a fellow who was not exactly the creme de la creme of those being connected with godliness, and in fact was lacking a lot, had committed a lot of sins. And Rabbi Yitzchak turns around and tells him, you know, I'm so jealous of you. The fellow was taken back. You're jealous of me? Me, out of all people? What do you mean? I'm an absolute sinner. I sin all the time. So Rabbi Yiftach told him, absolutely. For that reason is why I envy you. Because it says that when a person decides to change his ways and mend his relationship with God and change the path that he takes in life to follow the path of the commandments and doing what God wants, that not only God accepts him returning, but God takes all of his sins that he has committed in his life and turns them actually into merits as though they were mitzvahs. So you eventually will have way more mitzvahs under your wing than I do. We are living through unprecedented times. Times that would seem like difficult, to say the least. Perhaps even we would think that it's a punishment. At least for now, we have no real understanding of what has brought all of this about. But one thing we know for sure, that everything has to have a silver lining. And God willing, as the days ahead of us come, we are going to all contemplate a little bit more about our lives, how they have been impacted, how they have changed, what is it about my life that I would like to change, and finally now I have the opportunity to do so. And hopefully, at a certain point, we will be able to look back and say, you remember those difficult days? At least now we have some treasures in our hands, some positive and absolutely pristine treasures that we gained because of that difficulty that we went through. So to that end, first of all, I would like to wish you a Shabbat Shalom and a good Shabbos, and to tell you, hang in there, good days are ahead of us, and also to encourage you, while you're exploring all these changes and figuring out a new path in life, that we are increasing our lectures and classes and activities, virtual activities, in our Chabad house. I encourage you to log on and join our classes every single day this week. We will have an online class via Zoom. The links will be in this email. And let's actually do something positive with all this pent-up energy that is in us, and also some anxiety that some people have. Let's put it into good use, and let's turn our attention to a bright future, spiritually and physically, and most importantly, a healthy week ahead of us. Shabbat Shalom, everybody.